It was the winter of 1976. FA Cup fever gripped the country, but what unfolded at Stoke's Victoria Ground that day went far beyond football. Spurs came north with a mission, and the Boothen End was waiting for them. Let's hear the stories. First, we have Spurs Yid Army member Frank, who told us, "We'd been talking about it for weeks. Stoke away in the Cup. January 1976. Proper old-school tie, that one. None of this Premier League business. The Victoria Ground was one of those places that looked like it had been built for a war rather than football. Tight streets, red brick houses, smoke from chimneys, and locals who looked at you like you'd just insulted their mums. But that only made us more up for it. We came in from all directions that morning. London Road, Euston, even a few from Hertfordshire on Robins and Herbie's coaches. Proper cup fever. Everyone in sheepskins and crombies, flares flapping in the wind. A few lads still half cut from the night before. Someone had a radio on, crackling out Mamma Mia and Bohemian Rhapsody. The mood was buzzing. We weren't going to Stoke just to watch football. We were going to take Stoke. The talk all week on the terraces had been the same. We're going in the Boothen. Stoke's home end, their pride and joy. We'd heard it was a hard place to stand, full of big lads who didn't mess about. But that only made it better. We got to Stoke early around midday, and the station area was already crawling with coppers. They were edgy, watching every group of Londoners that stepped off the train. A few of us wandered off for a pint, the Glebe or somewhere near it, before heading up towards the ground. We could feel eyes on us the whole way, locals hanging around corners, muttering. Inside the Vic, the atmosphere was already crackling. Steam rising from the stands, the smell of pies, piss and smoke all blending into one. We'd split into smaller groups to make it easier to slip in unnoticed. The plan was simple. Get in the Boothen End before kick-off, get together down the front, and stand our ground. As the teams came out, we made our move. About 20 or so of us, a mix of lads from North and East London, ran down from the side, straight across the pitch. The Stoke crowd spotted us straight away. The noise went up a notch. We could see them surging forward, all scarves and fists. We hit the front corner of the Boothen, right down by the fence. That first few minutes were madness, pure noise and movement. Bottles flying, fists swinging, people getting dragged over the crash barriers. One of our lot caught a bottle across the shoulder. Another lad went down but got yanked up straight away. It was chaos, but we weren't giving an inch. We'd come to take their end, and by God we were staying there. It felt like forever, but can't have been more than 10 minutes. Every time the police tried to push in, they got pelted from both sides. It was just a mass of movement. You couldn't tell who was who half the time. I remember some Stoke lad with a broken nose shouting something about London wankers before he disappeared in the crush. We could feel the surge from their lot, but we stood tight. Even the coppers started shouting at us to move. Eventually they decided enough was enough. A couple of horses came in from the side gate, coppers with batons swinging. We got penned in, shoved towards the away paddock, all the while still shouting and giving it back. As we were marched across the pitch, the rest of the Spurs end were clapping us. Proper ovation. You could see it in their faces. Pride. We'd gone in, done what we said we would. The game itself? Honestly, barely remember it. Stoke nicked it, I think. But no one really cared. The buzz wasn't about the football that day. It was what happened before and after. When the final whistle went, it was far from over. The streets outside were absolute mayhem. Lines of police trying to hold both mobs apart, but the fighting carried on anyway. By the cemetery and near the police station, it really went off. I remember the sight of coppers behind the glass, watching as bricks and bottles flew past. It spread right into the station area. Spurs lads trying to get back to the coaches, Stoke lads coming from every direction. Proper running battles, people darting between gravestones like something out of a film. One copper tried to grab one of our lads, got dragged into the middle of it and lost his helmet. It was that kind of day, no one in control. The air was full of shouting, sirens, the sound of boots on tarmac. I got clipped by something. Might have been a boot, might have been a bottle, but didn't stop. We just kept pushing through. By the time we reached the station, a few windows were gone, and the pavements were littered with glass and scarves. The coaches were parked up with engines running, drivers shouting for us to get on. We piled in, faces bleeding, coats torn, everyone buzzing. Someone at the back started singing, "Glory, glory, Tottenham Hotspur," and within seconds, the whole bus was joining in. As we pulled out, we could still see the smoke rising over the streets by the ground. A few locals threw stones at the coach, but it didn't matter. We'd done it. We'd gone up there, fronted it, and stood our ground in their end. Stoke away, FA Cup 76, the day we took the Boothen. Stoke City follower Stan told us. We'd been waiting for them. Make no mistake about that. Ever since the draw at White Hart Lane the week before, 1-1, Cup still alive, there'd been talk across every pub, factory and school in Stoke. Spurs had ambushed us down there, chased our lads all around the lane. A few Stokies took a right hiding. Stories came back of yids in sheepskins and loafers, mob-handed and smug as you like. Word spread fast. They had it over us down there. Next week's our turn. The replay at the Victoria Ground was set for the 24th of January 1976, and everyone knew what it meant. It wasn't just a football match anymore. It was payback. From early morning, the town felt different. You could sense something brewing. Groups of Stoke lads were gathering in the usual haunts. The Talbot, the Vic, down the Wetherspoons on Church Street before it turned posh years later. Coaches were being watched, trains checked. Everyone was asking the same question. How many are Spurs bringing? Rumour was 2,000, maybe more. We didn't care. We were ready. The Boothen End was packed long before kick-off. Flags hanging over the railings, the smell of smoke and beer in the air. It was our end, our fortress. The idea of Londoners coming up to take it didn't sit well with anyone. You could see the old faces dotted about. Lads from Shelton, Fenton, Longton, the proper old Boothen boys. Everyone was alert, scanning the terraces for any sign of movement. Then, not long before kick-off, it happened. You could see it from the corner of the ground. A group of them coming across the pitch, maybe 20, maybe 30, strutting like they owned the place. Spurs yids, waving scarves and gesturing. For a moment, you could almost hear the crowd draw breath. Then the noise hit, a roar like thunder rolling across the Boothen. They landed down in the bottom corner, right in amongst our lot. It was like a spark in dry grass. Instant chaos. The front few rows just erupted. Fists flying, bottles smashing, scarves being pulled over faces. You couldn't move for the crush. I remember some old boy losing his flat cap and still swinging away with a programme in his hand. The Tottenham lads had bottle, I'll give them that. But they were mad to come in there. They got a few good digs in early doors, but we were all over them once the numbers told. The surge was unreal. You could feel the weight of hundreds of bodies behind you. I went over the barrier with about 4 others, boots and elbows everywhere. One of theirs tried to climb the fence to get out, but got dragged back down and disappeared under a sea of coats. It was madness. Pure 70s terrace bedlam. After what felt like an eternity, the police finally waded in. Horses, truncheons, the lot. They started dragging Spurs out, shoving them across the pitch to the away paddock. Our lot was still giving it. Chants, gestures, the lot, while the coppers pushed the Londoners along. The whole Boothen was roaring, proper pride. They'd tried to take our end, and we'd shown them the door. Once things calmed a bit, we tried to focus on the football, but the energy was still crackling. Every few minutes there'd be another flare-up somewhere down the terraces. The coppers were out of their depth, trying to keep lines between the sets of fans that didn't exist. You could see the yids penned in the corner, still mouthing off. It just made everyone more wound up. Stoke went on to win 2-1 if memory serves. When the final whistle went, the Boothen went mad again, not just for the win, but because we'd stood our ground. It felt like payback for London. But outside the ground, things turned even nastier. The area around the Vic was chaos. Down by the old garage yards and the back streets leading to the canal, there were running fights everywhere. Spurs mobs trying to regroup, some of them linking up with coaches parked near the Trent. We clashed with one group by the railway bridge. Bottles and bricks going, people slipping on the cobbles, coppers nowhere to be seen. One of our lads went down, got up again, and still managed to land one on some bloke in a sheepskin before the police piled in. The worst of it came near the police station by the cemetery. That's where it properly kicked off. Spurs had tried to push through towards the station, but we met them head on. I remember the eerie glow of the streetlights bouncing off the gravestones, steam rising from breath and smoke. It was chaos. Boots, belts, bits of railing. The coppers lost control completely. You could see them inside the station looking out through the glass, watching it unfold right outside their own doors. Someone said later that a few got hurt inside when it spilled in through the entrance. It was that sort of night. No one safe. Not even the law. By the time it finally calmed down, the streets were littered with broken glass, scarves, and the odd shoe. The air stank of smoke and sweat. We drifted off in small groups, some up to the pubs, others to the buses, still buzzing. We were bruised and battered, but proud. We'd remembered London, and we'd done something about it. They'd tried to take the Boothen, and for 10 minutes they might have thought they had. But in the end, they were marched back across the pitch under police guard while we stood singing. Stoke City 2, Spurs 1. The Boothen End, undefeated. We thank Frank and Stan for their recollections. It's clear that Spurs were actually in the Boothen End. What's not so clear is for how long. Stoke wasn't an easy place to go and take liberties, so my gut is telling me that Spurs tried it on and probably got moved on at some point. But if you were there, let us know what you saw in the comments. Here's a video from the match. At 1 minute 11 seconds, you can see a surge from presumably the Spurs fans in what looks to be the away section. So as per both stories. Thanks for watching. As always, it's really appreciated if you could share, like and subscribe, as it really helps our channel grow to give you bigger, better content. Until the next video, bye for now.